Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
This is Seeking Me Productions. For you, another movie review.
So it's finally come to an end.
Well, this particular set of films,
That's true.
and what we're talking about is John Wick, Chapter 4.
We have absolutely adored this series. This is probably hands down, one of my favorite action film series of all time. I'm putting it up there. It's just that stylish. It's that incredibly action-packed. The stunt work, the whole 9 yards. This film has it going in spades.
Easily rivals some of the best in the action franchises, at least from Hollywood's concerned. We've been following the John Wick series since the first installment. We have the reviews on the first two is a dual review, while Chapter 3, Parabellum, that's its own separate. But you can tell yourself that they have been a consistent set of films that slightly upgrades itself, but still maintains a consistency throughout. And with the success that these films have garnered, spin-offs are in development. The following that are about to come after this is a limited series on Peacock or NBC Universal called The Continental.
And then, of course, as far as films go, it's going to be the spin-off movie called The Ballerina.
But the thing is, how can this series, this franchise, continue without some proper branding? John Wick is the name of a titular character.
But of course, the series itself revolves around more than just that particular character in general. This is a world of assassins and underworld dealings. And all of it, even in this film, has always been garnered under the umbrella of the shadowy group of leadership called
The High Table. It's somewhere to go, so because it could be like the High Table presents.
I mean, of course, because at the end of the day, everything is done by the grace of this group.
But enough with discussing going forward.
Let's talk about where this film lies right now.
So, Chad Stahelski, he directed consistently throughout the whole film, with the exception of David Leitch, who was the co-director of the first movie. But this is he has been a solo director ever since, maintaining the main revenge storyline of John Wick, trying to reclaim a sense of freedom that he once lost after the events. So mainly, Chapter 2 is what really set the series where it was. But Chapter 4 is like somewhat of a conclusion to that huge revenge storyline.
Understanding from that point of view, we are thrown into this concept where John is still very much excommunicado, where this world basically deals with the concept that he is no longer part of the system itself. And now everybody, including those who are higher up in the high table in the world of assassins has to deal with, is trying to gun after him.
Yes, and they're trying the High Table, closing off and singling out anybody who is still in support of John Wick as a benefactor or a supportee of him trying to accomplish his goals. But the thing is, a major theme that has been pretty consistent that is highlighted, mainly directed towards the John Wick character himself, is the actions of his consequences.
Yes, consequences is a huge concept of this entire franchise. Now, a lot of the individuals who's helped him and tried to survive this deadly world is now finding their comeuppance come due.
And you'll see in all the films, and no difference in this one, that
no good deed goes unpunished.
The main this time around, the main plot, the main adversary is the Marquis de Gramont,
who is played excellently by the talented
Bill Skarsgard, and he's basically another main leading person from the High Table who is overseeing trying to take down John Wick and his pursuit on trying to get after that holding shadowy organization. Yeah, and the Chapter 4 it bounces off from many different countries, so the scope of the story is more of a globe-trotting adventure still. Not really much of the script is concerned, because at the end of the day, the world is like still rich with some good backstory.
Mm-hmm.
The script is still thinly written to the point that it does still take a back seat, and so much of the backstories of the many characters involved
are just like things that are told offhandedly, or maybe shown in maybe a particular way that they address themselves or carry themselves.
Not a lot of the story which we actually experience from them is still have a lot of heavy lifting from the actors, and that they had to convey this sense of history involved.
But of course, we've already knew this. The stories of the John Wick films are a particularly easy to understand, straightforward kind of storytelling.
More on characters. Like I said, most of the character backstories are always told like on the background, like it's through dialogue. So not necessarily experiencing the actual developed relationship involved.
At the end of the day, the story, at least these John Wick films, has only ever been about John's point of view. So
but even then, like on a more of an emotional front, despite the fact that this is a conclusion of his story, Keanu Reeves almost takes a back seat in this film.
Yeah,
like he's front and center when it comes to most of the action, but as a character, like
it's very much about the individuals who are now suffering because of him.
Donnie Yen's character of Kane, he's like the new main adversary, main hand-to-hand combat adversary that he goes up against, who was like we said, he was a friend of John Wick's.
But he's brought in here because of family circumstances that is now tied towards his relationship with both John and specifically the High Table themselves.
But you also, luckily, they do have him wrestle, and probably like a resentful and hesitational matter to go up against John Wick because of the circumstances that he finds himself in. Because he's very much being forced to do this.
Exactly. And you really do feel that in almost every scene he's in. You do feel that rawness, that distinct disgust that he's even having to be in this unique situation.
Another character that I would say is almost like a third lead into this movie as well is the character of the Tracker.
Oh, yeah.
He's played by Shamir Anderson,
who's in this film is very much known as Mr. Nobody. Wow.
He has a lot. He basically, at least when we were watching the theater, has so many of the crowd-pleasing moments as this character.
Especially with his little partner that he got going around him. Wow.
Yeah. Going back to Hiroyuki Sanada's character. Hiroyuki Sanada as an actor, Hollywood actor, I would say he's probably very underutilized.
Yeah, and this is, I guess we could take this moment too here to talk about this particular actor and the character he's playing. This is yet again a situation where he's playing very much a similar character that he's been playing for multiple different other projects.
From Hollywood, at least.
Exactly, and especially even more to an extent to the westernized variation of projects he's done.
Yeah. So if you know, like a lot of the way of roles that he's done, is no difference, and
he does it well. Not to harp take away from what he does in this film. I really did enjoy him, but it's just very noticeable that he's done this.
He's been
before.
Typecast.
Exactly, and I feel as though I'm ready for this actor to get an outstanding series of his own, or at least some other big break that he can truly chew away and present his acting talents.
The character who plays his daughter Akira, Rina Sawayama, she does make an impression. She's not in there as much like her character, because it's bounced off from different countries and stuff.
Exactly.
But the world of which they made in the John Wick, I feel like it feels very male centric, and the films really reflect that. And each installment, she's basically the main female that is the main highlight female that's usually in these films.
Which is true, and I feel as though going forward with a side story in this ballerina, it's going to be very interesting to see how the
audience react to a very female centric
storyline that's being told.
But Bill Skarsgard going on as the main villain.
Uh,
It's not.
he plays the arrogant, no nonsense,
ambitious type.
Yeah, ambitious type. So I feel as though to give a little bit more agency and a little bit more nuance to the high table themselves. I hope they don't all have this exact same, ideology or at least presence. I hope that when we actually do, which is also another thing, was going to use that as another segue, talking about the high table themselves, and which would also probably elevate this film even further, is giving the high table even more presence between its members and who's involved.
Because they have always been a very arm's length, always the echo. Never really much of a hands-on group. And before we finish off discussing these characters and things, we do want to give a highlight on Lance Reddick. Lance Reddick, he's been basically a great supporting character actor.
Yes.
Basically a character actor throughout his career. He unfortunately died around the release of this film.
It's such a tragic loss.
And the character, I'll say he's celebrated.
Yes, he's very
honored,
just like any other of the characters that's in this film. At least specifically to this unique story for John.
It's just a coincidence
that this lines up in this particular manner. The main draw for these films is the style and the action and the production value. That is what we're coming from these films, and John Wick Chapter 4 has that in spades. Starting first, of course, from their first journey from Osaka, the action sequences in there, and the way that they beautifully presented you the continental of that region is spectacular.
The scope of the story, the scope of the action still is relatively contained in a sense, despite the fact they're bouncing up from different countries and stuff. I would say from an action standpoint, from each installment, the creativity of the action films is expanded upon. Yeah. More and especially more in this one where they add each one has to add on a more visual flair. Mainly through the use of an environment or some new weapons involved.
Let's just say almost everything that John gets his hands on, and not even just John, a lot of these characters, Kane or Koji, it doesn't matter, individuals, when they get a new weapon or a way to kill somebody in this film, it almost feels as though you're literally playing a video game. And in a lot of ways, that's a good thing because it helps keeps the audience engaged and feels as though they're a part of in on the joke, in on the action, in on the depth in and of themselves.
But even with all the innovative sense of the action, still from 4 movies ends and budget is always added upon because of the success of them. It's kind of still odd how the bigger the John Wick franchise, they favor more intimate affairs still, despite the ways of the enemy. So it's in a way it limits itself because they have to stay on some form of brand.
That's true.
I don't feel as though them upgrading the action scope to something more on the lines of the Mission Impossible series and with a John Wick flourish is not going to hurt the series as much.
Yeah, I mean, I could have done with John killing a whole bunch of people on an airplane or some kind of something like that. I mean, I'm not asking for a space shuttle coming out.
No, we're not talking about Fast and Furious.
But that's going way too far. Look, let's just let's put it out there again. The concept that we live in a world, or at least in this particular series, they live in a world in which people can get tailor-made suits that can literally bounce off high-grade caliber weapons is ridiculous enough. So we can afford to have a little bit grander spectacles when it comes to chaos and mayhem, but in a controlled setting.
Yeah. And despite the fact that these are R-rated films, I'm surprised at how not as graphic they depict the violence in these films.
We're talking about individuals that literally have trained dog assassins. They stick on each other
or
constantly.
Using shotguns, probably sometimes at point blank range.
And you would see some chunks flying. You would hope, or at least you would think. Not hope. I would. God forbid anybody hopes that. But you would come on. It's a few things going flying here and there, or spilling out of somebody.
or the bladed weaponry.
Oh yeah,
So
with all the katanas and the blades,
like you expect more limbs be flying off. So,
but they don't. They don't.
It's just like as consistent as they are with like creating the innovative, like the film, the series still restricts the explicitness of the violence
Exactly.
and the scope of it. But like still keeping the pace of it. The music is still a highlight within the production sense. Tyler Bates and Joel Richards creates like very innovates, continually evolve the synthesized score that helps keep the beat running, and also adds much to the atmosphere and like throughout all the films. So good highlight. Also a great use of the soundtrack as well.
Oh yeah, especially when you have one of the individuals who helped with the soundtrack is also a character in the film themselves, which was a nice nod there and wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Rena, wow.
Okay, but from what is said, like from what we said from basically all of the John Wick movies, leading up to this point, I will say that yet again, John Wick Chapter 4 earns a great rating.
It could have been amazing. It could have been epic if they had changed some, added in more things. Also, I'm going to put this out there too. Where was Carrie-Anne Moss? Why was she not? Was she ever called up? How do you have Lawrence Fishburne, Keanu Reeves in the film and not have the whole Matrix cast reunion in the final installment for John's story? That didn't make no sense to me. So, I mean, that was going to be a check off right there. But, that's just me. But that's it. That's our review right now. We thought it was a great movie and definitely a great franchise. But how do you feel? Give us comments at the below. Hit that bell down there at the bottom for notifications. We want to hear from you.
And also, do you think that it's about time that stunt workers are able to get Oscars too?
Look, y'all, it's about time. We thought that the scenes that stunt workers do is magic on screen. So come on,
especially with this series of films from 87 Productions, who deserves their work be highlighted and recognized in other major outlets.
So it's so true.
My name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
This has been Sticky Media Productions. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and check out our social media outlets of Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for other content that we do not post on this channel.
Because as always, there's so many hours left in the day, and there's so little time left to do everything else out there. But that's what it is.
Hello. I help you again.
See you later.